Hello, everyone. Hope you are all well. Really excited to be here and talking to you about productivity with Trello. So making sure that everything's connected, which it is. Awesome. Comments are loaded up. So please, I want this to be as interactive as it can be. Please leave comments as we go. I will be more than happy to answer them if I can. And I'm sure that I'll be able to. Start off with a bit of confidence, hey? So again, just to preface with this, I don't work for Trello. I have never worked for Trello. This is not endorsed by Trello in any way, but hopefully it will be of use to you guys. I'm really passionate about things that add value and help others. Trello does that in bucket loads. So this is going to be a bit different to some of the other lives that I do. So there's just me. So if you are expecting someone from Trello or another person to come along, sorry, that's not going to happen. But also I'm going to be sharing my screen and run you through what Trello is, the kind of a little bit of the theory behind it, but also how to practically use this tool to get the most out of it. So I can see, hello, I can see people are commenting, which is great. So hello, but I can't see names, which is weird. I don't know whether LinkedIn has got some security issue with StreamYard. That'd be pretty odd. But anyway, let's get on. So check this out. As if by magic, ta-da. Now I get that small, right? So I'm just doing this as I talk through some of the high level theory, and then I'll make it all big screen. It'll all be wonderful. I tried it earlier, so we're all good. We're all good. So Trello. What is Trello? Trello is a Kanban board, which, when I say to people, oh, have you heard of a Kanban board? They often go, no. And then you explain what it is and they go, oh yeah, no, I use that all the time, or I've seen it about. So Kanban is a form of agile project management. So again, agile is one of those terms that gets bandied around and all companies say, hey, we're agile or we're working agile. And some of them are and some of them do, some of them aren't. And there are different theories around agile. I'm not going to cover all that today. One, because I don't think I'm actually qualified to, but two, it's not actually that relevant to what we want to talk about. But part of agile, or one part of agile, is Kanban. And that's really just the way of managing work. So in a traditional sense, I'd say back in the day, but this still happens quite a lot, you would have kind of a head of, and then you'd have managers, and then you'd have people doing work. And you would have the head of would go, I've got all this work and I'm going to push it to my managers. And then the managers would get all that work and they just push it further down their line. And it gets pushed down, pushed down, pushed down. And the lower down that food chain you are, you're just getting more work. Like, it doesn't really matter about your capacity, or it's just, here is work we need you to do. Okay. I don't think that's the most optimum way to work, thankfully. Neither do the lovely guys at Trello. So what Kanban does, instead of having work pushed onto you, you pull work through. So it allows you to manage your own workloads effectively. It allows you to prioritize, and it just allows you to be more efficient and have a greater sense of accomplishment. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go one size bigger. Boom. Look at that. Right. We are going to go super full screen in a moment. I just want to make sure that you guys can see this. What I'm also going to do is remove that, because that's just in the way. And can I actually remove my, I can't remove my logo. Never mind. Don't worry about it. So what you can see here, I'm actually going to go super full screen for this. What you can see here is Trello, which is a Kanban board. And as I say, you might be familiar with this, you might not, but if you've ever seen like a whiteboard with Post-it notes on and people are moving Post-it notes from one, column to another, that's a Kanban board, right? I've got one on my whiteboard over here for something very, very different. This is what I want to show you. How it works, as I said, the theory is moving things from left to right. So you've got these things over here, these columns, these are called swim lanes. Now, the terminology isn't important, but I'm just a real big believer on demystifying some of the terminology, right? You'll get some people who kind of know a little bit and they try to sound like they know more than they do by using a lot of terminology and a lot of buzzwords and actually try and exclude people from that conversation. That is the complete opposite of what I'm about. So I will use the terminology where I know it, but then I'll also just explain what it is. So these things, the columns, the swim lanes, and what they do, they should be the headers of the thing that you need to achieve. So let me explain that in a better way. So if you start over here, and I'll actually explain this because info FYI is a little, if you can read that, info FYI is a little bit different than what you usually find on a Kanban board. So I want you guys to ignore that for now. I'm going to start over here, right? So I realized that I was pointing the cursor on my screen, not on the screen I was sharing. So that wasn't very useful. So we're going to start over here. So I thought about the process that I need to get through for work around Career Dad, right? So I need to get something live, be that an article, be that a podcast, be that an interview, be that a website update, whatever it is, I need to do something, as I'm pretty sure all of us need to do something. So I thought about what are the steps that I go through, hopefully with a magic mouse. Look at this. What are the steps? I can actually hide that one there as well. Good. What are the steps that I need to go through to get something done? And I kind of work backwards. So over here, things are complete. It's done. Awesome. And then I go right to the start, which is have an idea. So I've got an idea for something and I want that idea potentially to go live. I want it done. So what happens in between that? So I've got my ideas. Then when I've formulated an idea a little bit, it will go into my to-do because I actually need to do it. And then once it's in my to-do, and I'll go into these in much more detail, just sticking high level for now. Once it's in my to-do, I then need to actually do it and work is in progress. When it's in progress and I've done everything that I can on it, then I will move it into a review or I'm awaiting feedback. It's with someone else. It's outside of my control and then it's complete. So, and I've used it, as I say, I'm using this for Career Dad, but I've used this historically with my team at work. When it's great for creative processes and it's great for collaboration when you're working with multiple teams. So if you're working on content, social media content, for example, you might have an ideas column, and then you might have, first round of editorial, and then you might have, legal review, brand review, whatever it is, all the review processes. And it's all the steps to move things along to get things live. So that at a really high level is the way that you should be thinking about your Kanban board. What are the things that I need to do to get something live, to make something happen? A few little house rules. Again, none of this stuff is written down as in this is the law. It's just either best practice or things that I've found. And I'll go in, as I say, I don't know whether I can actually zoom in, but I will open some of these cards so you can actually see what's going on. So these cards, so as I said, these are swim lanes. Sorry, I'm on the wrong screen again. You can't see my little cursor. These are swim lanes. The columns are swim lanes. These are individual cards, right? In theory, these should be in the order that you want to complete them. So in my ideas column, I've got this card, which is an article, why I hope I'll never monitor my kids' activity. A bit controversial, but anyway, we don't need to go into that. Another article here, the one piece of parenting advice that I'll give. Then the next one is LinkedIn content, top number of tools for productivity. If you go down, this is a long list, right? So if any of you guys are ever concerned that I'm going to run out of content, don't worry about it. There's a lot of ideas going on. And then what I like to do and this again, personal preference, my to-do column, I don't like to have more than 3 things in there because technically everything's to do, right? And if I could move all of my ideas into to do, and then I look at my to-do list and I go, that's intimidating. I'm not going to do that. And you get a bit of paralysis by the fear of the amount of work that you've got to do. I'm not about that. So, on a rare occasion, I might have 4 things in my to-do list, but really you don't want more than 3. Partly, as I say, because you can get paralysis by there's just so many things to do, but partly it really helps you focus, right? If I've got 20 things in my ideas list over here, and I know that I can only pick the top 3 that I need to work on, that's going to help me really understand the value of what it is that I'm doing. And then the next little golden rule, and this is something that I really, really encourage people to abide by, you can't have more than 1 thing in progress. You just can't. I say it again, you cannot have more than 1 thing in progress. There are so many, what's the word? It's not idiism. There's so much going on in the space of, multitasking and all. And isn't multitasking great? Well, it doesn't exist. There's research that's not even new that's coming out now that is saying about multitasking, it takes X amount of time for your brain to switch tasks. And, when you're interrupted, it takes however many minutes it is to regroup. So just focus on 1 thing. Again, it really helps you prioritize. So the way that I look at these 3 columns is, this is everything that I could be doing, hopefully in some sort of order. These are the 3 things that I really want to focus on and give a bit more attention to. And this is the 1 thing that I'm going to be doing now. This is something that I've done and I'm waiting for someone else to get back to me before I can progress. This is complete. And so in a nutshell, that is how Trello works, as in the theory. That is a Kanban board. That is why you would use it. Now, I did say, let's ignore this. Let's not do that. Let's ignore this over here, info FYI. This is a little bit different because what I also use Trello for is not just from a workflow management, moving 1 thing to another thing. I also use it as kind of a notice board, but I don't want all of my notices to get clogged up in the kind of moving parts. So I just have an info FYI list. So something that I'm looking at for my podcast is I'm noting kind of probably 30 to 50 very famous or influential people who I want to get on the Career Dad Show podcast to talk about their successes and their life stories, but as well parenthood, which often gets put to one side. I have a consistent issue with Audacity, which is an editing tool that I use for my podcasts, and I need to go into the Mac terminal and kind of code something. So I've just basically put the code in here so I never forget it and I can just copy and paste it. And then this is just the mission statement. This is just Career Dad's mission statement. And every now and then I just like to look at it and remember why I'm doing all of this stuff. But we don't need to worry about that. So what I want to do now, hopefully you're still with me, you're still interested in this, because I think it's super exciting. So the next thing that I want to look at is actually what you can do with this tool, what the real power of it is, right? So let's go into one of these cards, and what you can see, let's open up this one. Again, so this is an article that I'm planning on writing, why I hope I'll never monitor my kids' activity. What you've got in here, you've got members, so you can add team members. Now, I am the only team member, unfortunately, so there's no one else that I can be adding to this, but that's cool. But if you work in a team, you can invite people to Trello, and you can lock it down. So you can also make these boards as public as you want, right? If you're doing some community type thing, or you can really lock it down to just you or to whoever you want to be in your team. You've then got labels, which I'm going to go through separately because it's actually really interesting. Checklists as well, due dates. You can add attachments, power-ups, which I'll cover at the end. That's more of the paid version. And then just everything that you can do in terms of moving things to different columns. You can watch things if you don't want to necessarily be, you might be a stakeholder in a task. That's more for the bigger teams. And then also voting stuff up. So you could have an ideas section, again, for your team, and people could read through and vote up what they thought was good or what they weren't so interested in. So what I generally do on this is keep them quite light. So I put a description in. So these are the bullets that I want to focus on for this particular article, why I hope I'll never monitor my kids' activity. Focusing on, I grew up in pre-internet. I know it's hard to believe. But I think, partly if my parents knew some of the stuff that I did when I said I was doing other things, that would be quite horrifying. But at the same time, I was able to do it because no internet, right? So yeah, I won't go through that now, but this is just my thought process. So then I can add a checklist, which is as simple as clicking checklist, and I could put to-do list. And then in here, I could add an item. So I could say, write first 100 words as a bio, right? That's in there. I could say, I want to source an image and create a template landing page for website. Okay, there we go. So I got my 3 things in there. If I click out of my card, right, what you should be able to see, again, it's I know you don't know how good the zoom is here. You can see I've now got a checklist that says 0 out of 3 things. So on the face of it, I can see that I've got 0 out of 3 things complete. And as I tick it off, now it's 33% complete, 67% complete. And you can see here now it's 2 out of 3. And then if I click my final one, it's gone green, it's 100% complete. And I can see here it's green, it's 100% complete. So I'm going to delete that because I don't need that checklist. So checklists are really, really cool. Now, what you might have been thinking if you've been paying attention, which obviously you have, is when I was going through the things that are on my ideas list, I've been talking about like this, an article. I've been talking about videos. I've been talking about interviews. I've been talking about podcasts. I've been talking about web. How do you manage all that? There is so many different ideas going on. How do you have some sort of order around that? And simply, it's by using labels. So what I've done here is categorized everything that I could want to deliver. So if you remember at the start, we talked about having that completed state, and everything in theory should be trying to complete something. What could those completed states be? So for me, it's something around LinkedIn. As you'll know, you're watching this on LinkedIn, most of you. I know we've got a few Facebook, hello. But yeah, most of you are watching this on LinkedIn. So that's one of them. It could be podcast related. It could be video related. So which actually could be this, but it could be, I want to do a 5-minute video on education versus industry experience, right? So that could be something. It could be a live, which definitely is this. It could be an article, so I want to write something. And I've got 2 here. I've got articles owned, as in articles that are going to go on my site. And then right at the bottom, I've got article third party, which is an article that I'm writing for someone else. And I want to differentiate the 2, and I'll explain why in just a moment. It could be website related, or it could be event related. When you put these labels in, and it's all nice and color coded, you can see at a snapshot what things you need to do and where they sit. Now, this is useful for 2 main reasons. One, it helps with the planning because you can go, geez, there's a lot of purple and green there. So I'm doing a lot of LinkedIn or a lot of writing. And when I'm talking about LinkedIn here, it's usually to do with writing as opposed to video format. And as you can see, there are multiple categories you can have per card. So that's interesting because that tells me where I'm planning to spend my time. And does that actually align to where I should be spending my time? So if I haven't done a live in a few weeks and there's nothing down here that's showing live, I could think, ooh, maybe I need to prioritize that. And the other reason why it's really useful is actually the reflection, which is a huge, huge part of Agile and also Kanban, is to actually look at the work that you've done over a couple of week period and say, did that align? Did that work? Was that actually what I wanted to achieve? So in my completed column, again, if I see the only thing that I've completed recently is I recreated a link for the website. So if any of you guys follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you get that when you're trying to link to something and people say, oh, my link's in my bio. And it's kind of like one link, you can kind of link to one thing. I just created a really shrunk down version, a landing page of my website, and just called it, careerdad.co.uk/link in bio. And I'll show you at the end, actually, just because I think it's quite fun. And it's just a really nice way to signpost to lots of things from one link. So I did that this week. But yeah, it's really good to reflect on what you've achieved for that week. Or that 2-week period. So I find that super, super useful. So let's go back to the cards. So we talked about members, we've talked about labels, we've talked about checklist. Due date is pretty straightforward, right? You can say when something is due, you can set reminders. So do you want it 5 minutes before, a day before, 2 days before? And you can even sync it up. It's obviously synced up to your email address, right? So you can get email notifications that say, I actually had one this morning. As you can see on here, I've got a little red bell, which means I've got something due soon. So James Miller, if you're watching this, I will get the article to you by the 6th of August. That's I got an email this morning reminding me I had to do that. So that's pretty cool. Attachments, pretty straightforward. And then power-ups. So I won't go into power-ups fully, because to get the most out of power-ups, you have to use the paid version, which is like $10 a month. I have used the free version and am using the free version. I have also used the paid version. The main reason that I use the paid version is because my understanding, at least, is when you use services for free, that service owns the content that you put into its platform. Whereas if you pay for the use of a service, you own the content that goes into that platform. That's my understanding, at least. So when I was doing this from a work perspective, I wanted to make sure that, one, I was not uploading sensitive information, and two, that I was owning the content that we were putting on there. Apart from that, power-ups are pretty cool. So the ones that I used mainly were, there were two. There was one that was a calendar view, which I might actually still have active. They might give you, if I click this, yeah, okay, awesome, this is still active. So what this does, pretty cool, is because everything that I put a due date on will show in this calendar of what I need to do, right? So I can go, right, August, we're looking pretty good. This looks really good. Or this is user error. I have not added due dates to all my cards. So this is, as with everything, it's only as good as the information that you put into it. But that's pretty cool, right? So calendar view, and you can actually export the calendars as well. So what I don't think it does do, although there might be an upgrade now, is to sync up with like your iCalendar or Outlook or Gmail. That might be one of the newer plugins, but you can export, which is pretty cool. And the other thing was card aging. So imagine, I have to visualize this. Imagine that these cards, they're like a nice white, pristine color. And if you don't move a card, if you don't edit a card, if you don't do anything to a card, after a few days, it'll start to discolor a little bit, as in like it'll go kind of an off-white, and then after a week, it'll start to go browny. And again, it's just a really cool visual way to look at something and go, I've not looked at that for a while. Is that okay, or is it not? Because these things can just sit. One thing I actually haven't covered is how to move a card. It's real simple. You just click and drag it. That is it. You want to change the order, you click, you drag, boom. That's good. And what is really cool as well, this is more maybe for auditing purposes, but at the bottom it says activity. You can see Dan Reed added this card to do, and then I added a checklist. I completed some of the checklists. I confirmed my availability. I moved it to do. So it's got a timestamp and an activity log of everything that you were doing, which is pretty cool, right? So it's really good from an auditing perspective. And also when you've got teams on there, if you need team members that need to approve things, you could have a checklist that says approve, and you could have, Has Ben approved? Has Monica approved? Whatever it might be. And they can tick when they have, and then it will show in the audit trail that that person has ticked that checklist. So I think that bit's really, really cool. So we've got a comment from Phil. I'm no expert, but I suspect that ownership of content would be specific to the EULA that you agree to sign up. It might make provision for paid versus free, but not always. That's absolutely true. And as I said, that's why I really wanted to caveat that with my understanding, because I don't want to have a whole load of people go off and buy some a paid membership for something, only then to find out that they didn't have ownership. So that's a very, very good point. So that's really a lot of the basics of Trello. Now, I did promise you automation. The other thing that I want to show you is there's also a really cool app, right? So I'll show you. That's my phone. You can see I've actually removed the phone button. I've replaced it with LinkedIn, which is telling. However, you can see Trello, hopefully, is there. And when you open it up, it is just a carbon copy of this, and it works in real time. So look, if I'll do this on my phone, I'm now moving the final edits, which is in progress. I'm going to remove it to review. All right. And I'm dropping it now. Let's see. It's syncing, done, right? So this thing works in real time. So that's quite cool. I need to move it back. But the other thing that I'm really, really, it just blows my mind is the automation side of it. So there's an app called If This Then That, which if you imagine Excel macros, right? So, equals sum, this column adds this column. And I'm not, I'm not a whiz with Excel, but I can do equals sum, right? So that kind of formula. Imagine that, but instead of in Excel, it's for apps. So it's basically if statements for apps. So the example that I love to use is I like to go for a run. I like to go for a run when it's sunny and hot. So, and I like to go for a run in the morning. So what if I set an if this then that said, if the weather is going to be sunny tomorrow morning, set an alarm for 7 a.m. because I want to go for a run. If it's not, if the weather's bad, don't set an alarm, right? That is if this then that. Really, really cool app. Now, there are quite a few Trello integrations with Alexa. So let me go back to this information comment over here. Now, this is always really risky because I'm going to try something live, but I have set up an if this then that connection between my Alexa and my Trello board. So if I ask Alexa to, she hasn't gone off. Oh, she has gone off. Right, Alexa, stop listening. If I ask Alexa to add something to my to-do list, it should create a card in my Trello board. This should happen instantly. However, for full disclosure, I have the if this then that app here. And if I click refresh, it will do it instantly. So it takes between like a few seconds to a couple of minutes, but you can be downstairs in the kitchen, you can be in the shower, whatever you're doing with your Alexa, good. And you can just say whatever, and then you go to your Trello board later and you've got loads of notes. So let's try this in real time. And I really hope that it works because it'd be a real egg on the face if it didn't. And if anyone wants to prove that this is not just, I've not just, done this. If someone wants to tell me what they would like adding to my to-do list, I will ask the home bot to help with that. So I'll give that a minute if anyone does. If not, I'll just add a test or something. But that's really, really cool, and I'll share that functionality. So another LinkedIn, why are the LinkedIn users not? That's really frustrating. I share Trello boards with my teams. Is there a way to set up notifications so I know when they have completed a task? At the moment, they email me. Yes. So there is in a way. So what you could do is, my understanding is, Yes. So just because I haven't used Trello in a Teams capacity for a while, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't giving you complete wrong information. What you can do is on this Trello board, you can see the 3 dots. If you click the 3 dots and then it says watch, and you will then start watching that list, which means you will get an email notification when something in that list changes. So all you need to do, if you have a list, like a column that is for completed work, just make sure that you're watching that, or if not, just add a new one. And then all you need to make sure is that when one of your team members completes that task, that they move it into that column that you are watching, which they should be doing anyway, because how do you know it's completed, right? And then you'll get an email saying that an item has changed in that list. That's a really great question. And yeah, that'll really help keep on top of the work. So no one seems to have anything that they want me to add to my Trello board via automation. So I will add, is there anything that I need to do? What do I need to do? I mean, I've kind of got everything that I need to do on there. I will add, okay, there's something that I can't share right now, unfortunately, but it is super, super, super exciting. A podcast guest that is just, and I want to do a bit of research on him. I mean, this guy's had documentaries made about him, so there's a lot of information out there. So I will try this. Alexa, add to my to-do list research for super awesome podcast guest.
I've put research for super awesome podcast guest on your to-do list.
Excellent. So she's added that to my to-do list. If I leave it at some point, this would update. As I say, it can be seconds, it can be minutes. What I'm going to do is say, just click the check button. So it just pushes it through instantly. And as you can see, a new card is added up here, which says research for super awesome podcast guest. And in it, it tells me the date and the time that it was added to my to-do list. And it also tells me my outstanding Alexa to-dos. So if I had a lot of stuff on the... No, there's nothing to do. You pipe down.
Okay.
Cool. So it would add my whole list in there. So again, if there are things that I've missed or things I've forgotten about, it's all in there. Alexa, clear my to-do list.
You'd like to remove all items from your to-do list, right?
Yes.
Done.
Good. And I'd like that without... There was too much shock in her voice for my liking there. So in a nutshell, that is Trello. So, I'm a huge fan of to-do lists because they help to keep you on task. There's a real satisfaction on ticking things off on to-do lists. But I don't like paper. I don't like pen and paper. I'm a huge fan of typing and writing things down as opposed to, you see a lot of hacks out there about, go to your lecture theatre and just record it on your phone and then get home and use like Google Docs to dictate it. And I'm like, well, yeah, if your objective is to just transfer information from one format to another, great. But if you actually want to consume it, probably not that great. So I am a huge fan of that, but I just don't like taking up space with loads of to-do lists. And I also find that when I do physical to-do lists, the things that I really need to do end up getting not done. And then they always form the start of next day's to-do list. And they're just almost like an ongoing joke with myself. So again, that's why I really like Trello. It helps from a workflow management perspective. It helps organize your thoughts. It helps, going back to this, 3 things, guys. You don't need more than 3 things in that column. Again, if you're an individual working on them. So as you can see, there is only me. So there's my face on there. If you like the user who's, sorry, I say user, it's weird, isn't it? It's only kind of, drug dealers and website digital space who talk about people as users. But people, so the person who had a team, you might want to assign an individual team member. Then obviously you can have more things if you've got more people. but just really try to prioritize that hard. And in progress, strongly recommend no more than one. But there we have it. That is a whistle-stop tour of Trello and Kanban boards. And I think they're absolutely fantastic, as you can tell. I'm going to do this now. Ready? Boom, still here. And that's what we've got time for today, because on a separate note, I'm proving my sourdough and it's nearly ready. So I need to go put that in the oven. Hope you guys find that useful. Neil is saying, I can add it in here, if you like If This Then That, is worth checking out Zapier and Integromat. Thank you very much. I will check out both of those things. Interestingly, Neil is here with name and face. LinkedIn user, not so much. But I really appreciate that you stuck around and commented. If you do have any more questions, comment in this video, add me. I'm not one of those people that's, I curate who I connect with on LinkedIn. I connect with everyone because I just think there's value in doing that. So shoot me a connection request if we're not connected. I will be putting this on my YouTube channel as well, so you can watch back until your heart is content, which it never will be, because we're just talking about optimization, and who doesn't love that? I love that. Thank you. This is something that I've been thinking about doing for a while. I've got a number of topics that I want to cover. Some of them are more businessy optimization stuff like this. Some of them are, another topic that was really high on the list was parental guilt. I want to talk about that. So yeah, I'm planning on doing more of these, trying to keep them as short, sharp, and snappy. I wanted to say schnappy. That was too much, as possible. And I'm glad you like them. So thank you so much for joining. Hope you're having a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.